welcome to the David the Dog Trainer podcast, episode 37. Here we are. Hello. What's good, Josh?
Why does it seem like ever since I think it was like 32, I feel like I can't believe it's 37 already.
Every time we do this, we're going to say that.
I know.
Every time.
Dude,
Every time.
We're almost to 40.
I know. Yeah, well, here we are, 37. We just wasted about an hour and 15 minutes bullshitting about nothing, which typically happens.
Yeah. It's
kind of the fun of the podcast day, though, is that nice slow rise, you know?
Yeah.
No big time constraints. Just like, let's
Exactly.
just fucking get it done.
Yeah, you got to get the juices flowing, so.
That's it.
Could you imagine? I think the couple times that we have just been like, okay, we got to go and do this now.
Haven't been the
and we're
best
just,
ones.
we're like,
I would agree.
we're warmed up at the end.
I would agree. What's new? Anything?
Not a whole lot. It was a rough week for me, but I did manage to get into Cloak and Dagger on Monday, and we finished their shots for their new menu that's coming out October 1st.
Oh, you mean for the New York Times?
Yeah. No. That one might come close to Halloween, but this one's their new book.
New
or
book.
whatever. Yeah.
I'm ready to go try it.
Oh, it's good.
Tried them all so far. I've liked them all.
Yeah.
Very exciting. I don't have a whole lot new. I was on a podcast the other day. Shout out to the Guiltless podcast. It's a local Cleveland podcast. They've been doing it for a while. They got like 130 some episodes, I think, at this point, and they're all pretty long form. Ours was like 2.5 hours or something. It's a really cool podcast. Two just kind of Cleveland guys. One is a comedian. The other just enjoys podcasting.
Yeah. Bless you.
Jesus. And they just like talking to people in Cleveland. So they've had a lot of like restaurant owners on, just people, comedians, people throughout the Cleveland scene.
Okay.
And I found them months ago when I believe they had Pants on. He was on. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to them. I was like, hey, guys, if you're ever looking for anybody to be on the cast, let me know. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, absolutely, whatever. Turns out that one of the guys that is the co-host of it, Brian, is dating one of my employees. So that was my ultimate in. I just found out recently. So we did it. It was really cool. We had a good time. Talked about a lot of things. I'm really enjoying just kind of talking about things outside of dogs a little bit. You know, like we touched on it because obviously it's what I do. But for the most part, we discussed a lot of the current climates of business, some of my thoughts on owning a business, struggles that I've had, hurdles I've faced, stuff like that. And I thought it was a really interesting conversation. So go check that out. The Guiltless podcast.
Nice. Plugging it in. Weren't you on another one just recently too? I feel like you were, that you posted something about it.
I mean, not recently.
Yeah.
I was on one maybe like 3 months ago called That's Just My Opinion.
Okay.
It was like an hour and a half. It's ran by these two girls down in Texas. They were the girls that came to the seminar in Florida. Remember?
Oh.
They had that lab.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know
Brandy.
that. Yeah. I didn't know they were doing a podcast.
Yeah, so
too.
they have a little podcast.
That's cool.
So they asked me to be on it. We did like a virtual one. That was cool. And then I was on Dave Putman's as well from Buffalo.
Yeah.
I think those are the only ones that I did.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but it's cool. Yeah. If you got a podcast, I'd love to speak on it.
Boom. Yeah. Speaking of that girl, that I saw that you she reposted like the picture from the seminar.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's a throwback. So that was pretty cool. That's pretty cool that she's still like keeping up with everything, man.
Yeah, definitely. She still reaches out every now and then. We still stay in touch. Aside from that, staying cruising, still getting that fucking gym life.
Yeah.
45 minutes in. Only missed one day so far since the last podcast. Let it be known.
He was at a show.
I'm sorry. Aside from that, not a whole lot else new. We got some still growing at the facility. We have big things in the works. Big things. Yeah. Aside from that, there's nothing else new.
I was gonna say
I don't have a whole lot of ranting.
Any update with the new space at all? Or?
I watched them put in the electrical yesterday.
Ooh.
It's still going a little slower than I'd like. but they are still making progress on it. Our fence company comes in on October 10th, I believe, to start the fencing job. So I think we are looking okay for right now.
Nice.
We're looking okay.
You're not gonna have any outside space on that side, right?
There's no space for it. Yeah, there's no back area or anything.
Okay.
So, nope.
That'll be exciting.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, we're gonna start getting right into it. So I got one question that I want to answer that we got from YouTube the other day, and then we have a special thing that we're gonna do.
Okay. He won't tell me it. So.
I haven't. Well, I just thought of it a couple minutes ago. I thought it was a good idea, and we're gonna do it because I think it's a good idea. So let me pull up this question. Let's see what we got here.
And if you're a normal listener, you know that's how we roll. We think about it, and therefore we do it.
Where is it? Here we go. All right, we got a question. So this has been one of the more popular videos on our YouTube channel that I've noticed. We get a lot of engagement on it and not a whole lot of hate on it. So it's not like a bunch of idiots that are just like, fuck you, this is stupid, I don't like what you do, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot of like generally curious questions. So this one is on the When Your Dog Resource Guards You video that we made a while ago.
Ooh, okay.
When we made at the facility. So this question here is from Jamie. Jamie asked 2 days ago, "Hi, I'm so glad I found this channel. I have a question. My brother's German Shepherd, 7 months, and a recent addition, another German Shepherd, 8 months, are not getting along. I also have a female German Shepherd that is a litter mate of my brother's dog that does fine with both dogs. Now each male dog is resource guarding my brother and I. They will try and lunge at each other, and only the older one has bit the other one. No blood drawn, thankfully. I've gotten bit from one interaction where the older dog did not like the other one, even in my space, as well as has tried to bite the female from me giving her attention as well as I was with him." It's a hard one to read. "We honestly are lost as to what to do, especially since I have young children and would hate for the dog to do that around them. How do we correct this?"
That was a hard one to get through, but
there's very little punctuation in it, so it was hard for me to gather where to stop and start.
Gotcha.
Okay, so couple details that I need to know as far as this. Do you and your brother live together? Because this would change a lot of the dynamic of things. If you guys live together, then we have an issue of, do we need to get the dogs fully integrated together right now? If you guys do not live together, then we would have a different approach of how we get them together. And frankly, there would be less expectation because if you don't live together, when you guys are together, you really can, if you absolutely needed to, just keep the dogs separated from each other, right? Let's go into this with the expectation or with the guess that you guys are living together, right? This is a complicated situation when I see people that are living, like let's say I lived with my parents and I had my dogs and they have their dog, or me and my sister live together and she has her dog, I have my dogs, or something like that. It's a complicated situation because we look at it as humans of, these dogs live together. They're a part of the same pack. They live under the same roof. They should be best buddies and this and that. But to the dogs, it's completely different because it's essentially the same thing as you living in an apartment building, right? Where you may have your dogs and your neighbors may have their dogs and your neighbors may have their dogs. But to the dogs, they're not a part of the same pack. You guys do things separately from them a lot of times. And from time to time, they get together in a communal area. No different than an apartment, how you may have like a dog park situation where these dogs get together, right? So with that understanding, you have to understand that these dogs probably will never have this essentially ultimate pack hierarchy amongst each other where they've figured it out and everybody knows who's in charge of what things and this and that because of that separate-esque lifestyle that you guys live. So you have to look at it no differently than if you guys lived separately, which means that all dogs need to have their individual spaces, and when they're being socialized with each other, they have to be treated as if you were going for a play date with your friends. Right? Which means that when those dogs are together, there should be no food out. There should be no toys out. There should be no affection being given where there can be resource guarding issues happen, right?
Okay.
The issue that I see in a lot of these cases, and this is kind of what I'm just guessing with the information that I have, is we live our separate lives with the dogs, but at night or during the day or on the weekends when we're all hanging out in the living room watching TV, essentially socializing these dogs with each other, one of them's on the couch, we're lounging, we're hanging out, and we're treating it like this is just our normal day-to-day activities, as opposed to these dogs are now socializing with each other and can't be doing a lot of those types of things. So what I recommend for this kind of stuff, if you have those separate situations, is you need to have essentially your quote-unquote household for one dog and your household for the other dogs, and those areas are the areas that you could do whatever you want with the dogs, right? Let's say bedrooms. Right. In the bedrooms, they could have all their toys out. They could, they would eat their food in that area. They would have their kennels in that area, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. Right. And all of those things, you would live your daily norm in that situation. Right. Then you would have your communal areas that are look at like a dog park or a dog socialization situation or something like that.
Yeah.
And when you're in those situations, there has to be different rules than there is in the essentially home areas, right? So I would not have furniture access in those areas. They're not allowed on the couches. They're not allowed on the furniture or anything like that. I would have no toys out. I would have no treats out. I would not be having any sort of food bowls laying around or anything like that. And anytime they're in those situations, your job is you would not interact with those dogs. Now, depending on how long you live in this type of situation with the other people, over time, these dogs are going to start to develop a relationship with each other, in months to years of kind of handling things like that.
Yeah.
And you could loosen it up little by little as it gets further along, but you need to be going into every interaction that these dogs are going to have with each other as we're socializing, right? Hands off, supervised, ready to correct if there's issues with anything, and making sure we're not doing anything to create the problems. Because as I stated in that video that I posted, most human resource guarding issues that we'll see stem from us being in a position where we're creating that guarding sensation. Too much love, too much cuddling, too much interaction makes the dogs view us as a resource, which creates problems. So that's the first thing that comes to mind when I hear those types of things, is that's like the situation that they're having, right?
Yeah.
And that's the most complex of them, which is why you really need to mentally break it down of like, this is our home spot, this is our socialization spot, and the rules are different here than they are here, and you have to do it that way. There's not really an alternative, right? Other side of the equation would be if they live separately, and this only happens when they're coming together, right? This one's significantly easier to do because first you need to start understanding when is appropriate to bring your dogs over versus when is not appropriate to bring your dogs over. And typically long hangouts, you're going to be there for 5 hours, 6 hours, you're having a cookout, dinner, family dinner, holiday, things like that.
Yeah.
Those, in my opinion, are typically inappropriate situations to bring your dog around other dogs. There's too much other stuff going on. Your supervision is not going to be as good as it needs to be, and there's going to be issues that pop up eventually. Right? So that would be first thing that I would kind of push to the side and just say, all right, well, we're not doing that anymore. What I would do is I would pick about 2 months, and I would say once a week, assuming you have the ability to do this, you get the dogs together for an hour to 2 hours, right? In that hour to 2 hours, you're going to go into that not with the expectation that I'm going to hang out with my brother. You're going with the expectation that we're going to socialize our dogs with each other.
Yeah.
You find an open area. You make sure that the dogs are off leash. Again, there's no resources out. You guys stand around and just supervise the dogs. Let them interact. If there's any issues, you can correct for it. And you start to let these dogs develop a relationship with each other, like we talked about in the step before, without all of the additional fluff, right? You let them kind of figure out their thing. You let them interact. You don't have all these outside variables and stuff like that. And as you do that for a month or two, you'll start to see they'll get more comfortable with each other. You won't have as many problems as you were having before. And you could start integrating them into more and more of your life. But at that point, without the pressure of them living together, you just do it less. You don't do it as much as you're kind of expecting to do it right now. So that's how I look at a lot of these kinds of situations. Depending on the severity, it doesn't sound like these dogs are just like mauling each other on sight by any means. But depending on the severity, you may need to have some e-collars for the dogs or something to be able to give some corrections if they do really start getting fired up at each other. But for the most part, that's going to be how you're going to want to address this. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. That was good.
It was good.
I mean, yeah. It's an interesting way to look at it that, just because you live together doesn't mean that, you
live separate lives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like a roommate. If you got a roommate that has a dog, you guys live separate lives,
That's true.
And you have to have your communal area. This is just like, let's look at the human side of things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a reason why roommates have their own areas of the house.
Yep.
Right? This is our individual spaces where you don't fuck around with my shit in here. I don't fuck around with your shit in here.
Yeah.
And we have our communal shared areas that we have mutual respect for each other. And we kind of alter some of the things we may do in those areas to be mindful of the other person.
Yeah.
And we make sure that everybody's happy and harmonious.
Yeah.
You got to look at the dogs the same way, right?
That's
it is
true.
a roommate situation. And you guys can do whatever you want in these individual situations. But when you're together, there are different rules. You can't do whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah.
You can't just lounge all over the couch and freak out the window and do this and do that, because that's not respectful of the other dog and the other dog's rules they may have, right?
True. That's true.
So you got to be able to look at it separately like that. I don't know if I've ever really talked about it in that light before. That is
good though.
I got to revise some of that and get into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions on that, Doobie?
Nope. It was good.
All right. So that was my only question I think I had right now. So we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode.
The meat and potatoes.
All right. So today we are going to call David the Dog Trainer's greatest hits.
Okay. I like that. The greatest hits.
The David the Dog Trainer's greatest hits. So there was a period of time from about end of 2017 to, it was probably beginning of 2017 through like end of 2018. So about 2 years that I very, 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 very committedly created a boatload of content, right? I was doing Instagram posts every single day. All of them were fairly instructional, detailed. Like a lot of time went into this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was doing blog posts. I was doing YouTube videos. Like we were doing basically everything.
Yeah.
Right? And we were trying to go gung-ho on let's build the David the Dog Trainer brand. Now, that was for a couple of reasons. One is because I wanted to develop my name more. I wanted to make a better community, for dog owners to be able to get resources from.
Yeah.
Because I was seeing a big lack of that, especially in the Cleveland area. And it was a big hole that I knew that I could fill.
Yep.
Another reason was I knew very early on that I was going to be leaving my last company, Heights K9, and I was absolutely freaking terrified that when I did that, I was just going to fall off the face of the earth and nobody was going to know who I was. So I wanted to go even more extreme.
Yeah.
Let's blow this brand up. So when I transitioned to my new company, it would be a seamless transition, which was Miracle K9, which is exactly what happened, right? We started Miracle. It was like, bam, everybody was there because everybody was following my brand, right? And this gets into, for some people, the importance of personal brands, right? As you develop a personal brand, let's look at you, for example, right? Like if you're just developing the Josh Dobe brand of like, I do all of these different things, I'm influential in this department, and I know photography, I know videography, look at all these different things I've done here and different things I've done here.
Yeah.
If you go to transition from photography to, I don't know, what's a random thing that you could do?
I don't know.
Brewing beer. Let's say you wanted to be a beer brewer, right? Josh Dobe, the brewmaster.
Yeah, straight edge brewmaster.
Yeah, right? Let's say you wanted to do that hypothetically.
Yeah.
All of those people would be following you for you and be able to transition very easily into that new thing.
It's true.
Right? That's the importance of personal brands. And people talk about this a lot, of developing the brand of you as opposed to the brand of the service that you're offering. Now, I did dog training specifically, right? So it did kind of cater me into that.
Yeah.
But a lot of my ideas and stuff that I talk about now and more of the business side of things and this and that helps lead me into future endeavors that I may want to pursue, right, in business aspects, right? Or I'm big into personal finance. I talk about that a lot and stuff like that. Let's say I hypothetically wanted to move into that direction. Now that I'm starting to develop more of a brand on those types of things as well, that's going to help me for that later on.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever. Long story short here, I used to create a lot of content, and I have some pieces of content that, in my opinion, at the time were really, really good. Like some of them really blew up, gained a lot of traction, and helped to be able to build my brand or my name quite a bit further. So I stumbled upon a couple days ago my old WordPress page that I had, which was just an old blog site right, that I used to post all of my blogs from.
Yep.
And I was scrolling through it, and I was like, damn, like I used to write a lot. Like writing was my medium, right? Like I had a really hard time initially being able to like gather my thoughts quickly on camera, which is something that through doing this podcast and making our YouTube videos and stuff like that, I've gotten significantly better with. But I used to be able to sit down and collect my thoughts and write shit out really well. Yeah. Right. So I want to go through here and I want to just start reading some of these blog posts that I made and talking about them and seeing how much of it holds true still. You know, like some of this stuff was created 4 years ago, 3 years ago, you know, and as the dog training industry has evolved and as my style has changed, there may be some things in here that are good. There may be some things in here that are a little dated at this point.
Maybe.
So we're going to get through some of them.
Okay.
You good? All right. So first one that I see that popped up, this one is muzzle tips. Let's see. When was this written? Does it say? Does it say? It doesn't. That's kind of weird. Oh, yeah, here we go. February 9th, 2018.
Okay.
So what is that, like almost 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that... Wait.
Dude, I'm so bad at this kind of stuff.
Wait, Miracle was 2019, right?
2019. Okay. Yeah. This is February of 2018, so this is a year before Miracle. So almost 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Over 4. February of 2018 to February of 2019.
Yeah.
February of 2019 to February of 20. February of 2021. 3.5 years.
3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay. All right, so we're going to read this one. This one is called Muzzle Tips. Muzzle tips.
Muzzle tips.
Muzzles are one of my favorite dog training tools in existence. They have enormous benefits and keep everyone safe while working through things that may be challenging for some dogs or spark some sort of aggressive response. These are a couple of tips on what muzzles to use, how to introduce them, and why they are so important. First, what muzzles to use. I get messages every single day from people asking what brand muzzle I use and why. The only muzzle I use or recommend is Baskerville brand muzzles. These muzzles are basket muzzles that have tons of ventilation, do not restrict the dog's ability to open or close their mouth or pant, allow them to eat or drink water through, and are incredibly secure. Fitted appropriately, there should be no way that the dog could get them off. You could purchase these directly through Amazon. First off, a couple things. I feel like a lot of people, when they say things like, I get messages every single day or stuff like that, they're kind of fluffing it a little bit, and they're like, oh, yeah, I get all these messages and this and that, blah, blah, blah. I legitimately used to get 2 to 3 very long, extensive direct messages every single day from people asking me dog training related questions. I like coined myself on Instagram as like the guy that will answer literally any question that you have in extensive detail. And it was extremely overwhelming.
I remember those days.
I remember I went on a cruise one time. And listen, like I'm not a cruise guy, right? But like I was pretty bored on the cruise. Like it was a small boat, this, that, whatever. I remember I sat around one day on like a lounge chair, like on the top deck of the cruise ship. Yeah. And for like 5 hours just responded to direct messages.
Oh my God.
Just dog training direct messages.
David.
I know. I remember I was just sitting there. I was like, I'm on this cruise.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there like, just like rapid fire. I think I was like back like, because I would like batch them out and I would do them like once a week or once every other week. And I would get like 30 to 35 at a time that I'd have to reply to. God. And I was like, oh, fuck. I'd have to like set entire days to respond to these direct messages. It was insane.
You've learned that when you go on vacation not to do that now,
yes,
right?
I have.
Okay.
So yes, Baskerville muzzles still to this day the best brand muzzle that you can get, in my opinion. I as of recently have started getting some flack from people that are like, oh, well, you could still land a bite through a Baskerville muzzle. You got to get something more secure and blah, blah, blah. Yes, they're correct. Technically speaking, if the dog tried hard enough, they could still bite you through a Baskerville muzzle. But I believe that the Baskerville is more secure than the other muzzles people may say that they can't land a bite through, and they're much less invasive on the dog, which means that you're going to have less stress, which means that there's going to be less of a possibility that the dog is going to try to bite you in the first place, right? Yeah. A lot of these like non-bite proof ones that you'll see, they're like the Jafco style muzzle, which is like a big plastic shell basically, or they have these old like leather ones that you can buy that are heavy as shit. They're 100%. It's like just like, you know what I mean? Like
there's like a hole for breathing. That's it.
And that's it, right? And it's like, I get what they're saying. I get it. You know, oh, you could still technically get bit through it. This, that, right? You've reduced your chances enough. And the dog is going to be more comfortable and more secure with it, where I'm going to accept that very, very nominal risk that there might actually be something that could still happen through it. Yeah. So that's the reason why I choose to use them. I think they're easier, more accessible, easier for owners to use. They're less scary looking. I think there's a lot more benefits to using the Baskervilles.
I would almost say it might be your fault if you get bit.
Well, I mean, listen, like for example, when I was working with Bitey Betty, right? Like
Bitey Betty.
She so like crazy little terrier. We posted some like before and after videos of and stuff, whatever. She like would just thrash and flail like a psycho, and I kind of got my thumb like in it, and like she kind of caught the tip of my thumb like through it one time. But like at that point, everything that I had been doing with that dog, like I think it was a little unavoidable at that point, right? Like she was so bad with that stuff that whether I had a different muzzle on or not, I was going to get like somewhat injured. Like, cause she was also really bad about, she'd grab you with her paws and like rip you with her fucking nails and stuff, you know, like it was a whole mess in itself. And you start getting into dogs like that. Like, again, I am going to accept that risk, but a lot of those types of things that I did with her, like I'm going to be the only one doing that anyways. We're not going to be having the staff and everything work with those types of things. Yeah. Right. So whatever. I am a big fan of the Baskervilles. That is my approach. All right. Next, how to introduce the muzzle. There's a lot of talk and debate on the appropriate way to introduce a muzzle to your dog. Many will say teach the dog to stick their face into it on command with food. Others will say make the dog wear it and feed them treats while wearing it. And some will say don't use it if your dog looks stressed with it on. I do a slightly different approach. Though it can be beneficial at times to have the dog stick their face in on cue, and no one wants to see a dog look stressed out due to them, the reality is that muzzles are weird to dogs. It is inevitably going to be very uncomfortable for them, initially when you begin introducing it. Sticking their face into the muzzle is the easy part. Wearing it for extended periods of time and living their day-to-day life with it on is where you have issues. I take a natural approach to introducing the muzzle. The first thing I want to do is show the dog that there is no way they can get it off. I put the muzzle on securely and allow them to paw at it and fight at it for a little while. I do not ask them to sit or down or not do it. I simply let them realize there is no chance it is coming off. Once they settle down, you could either reward with food or just leave them be. I do this a few times until the dog begins getting a bit more comfortable with it being on and doesn't fight it as much. From there, I set a strict 1 hour per day muzzle time where I put the muzzle on and go about my day-to-day routine while they wear it. This will help them get used to it and break any associations that they may have with it, always meaning vet time or something scary. This is a big one, guys, right? A lot of people overthink the muzzle, just like people overthink the crate, just like people overthink the e-collar, just like people overthink everything, right? There's such a push if you have to create the positive association. Everybody's just sitting there all fucking day long with the muzzle, like treat, 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 treat. And the problem is the dogs that typically really need the muzzle are going to be the ones that's going to be the hardest approach for with in general, right? Because here's the thing, right? Of course, they're going to sit there and feed treats all day long, and you could spend 2 months doing that, and they could like sticking their face in the muzzle, you know, and it could be no problem. But the second that you go from doot, 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 so now we're buckling this over your face, that dog's going to be like, what the fuck, you know? Back out, they're going to have nothing to do with it, and you're going to ruin all of that progress you just made with the treats, which is why I don't even waste my time with it. It's not necessary, right? Because, again, I would rather the dog just learn to tolerate me doing things to them like that than spend this time creating this positive association. Because, again, the dogs that typically need the muzzles are the ones that kind of need that attitude adjustment of, I'm just going to do this and you're going to learn to tolerate it kind of mentality, you know? And that's a big fight that I think is very important with dogs when we're working with muzzles and we're working with aggression and stuff is I'm getting this on you and you're going to learn to just accept the fact that it's on you, you know? That's been my approach with it for a while, you know, and it hasn't steered me wrong. I worked with a dog 2 days ago. His name is Rex. Rex is coming in for a board and train. No vet will touch him right now because he's supposedly aggressive. Listen, I don't think this dog is that aggressive, just per my initial meeting with him.
Okay.
But all these vets are terrified of him. He's like a big pit bull. He's strong. He's kind of fearful and stuff, you know, looks kind of sketchy and everything. But nobody would see him. And the owner had been trying for a while to get this muzzle on this dog. Could not do it. He's like, I can't get this muzzle on the dog. Dog's too scared, whatever. Bull.
Okay.
And he had been kind of fed this lie that, you know, if the dog seems scared of it, you can't just put it on him because you're going to like ruin the relationship and all that kind of stuff. All this BS, whatever.
Okay.
He wanted to do a board and train. He signed up for a board and train. He's like, but he needed to get his vaccinations, right? So I was like, listen, come on over, right? We'll take a look at it. We're going to get a muzzle on this dog and we're going to take him to the vet and get his vaccinations. Right? Because we have to get it done. You haven't been able to do it so far. Like, you have to be able to get this done. It's a big hurdle. So we sat there. Took us about 20 minutes to get this muzzle on the dog. We got it on the dog. We fitted it up real snug.
Yeah.
And this dog started just going bananas fighting at it, trying to stop it, get it off, this, that. Because we had it fitted up properly, he wasn't able to get it off. He fought it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, and then just kind of laid down in defeat. And he's like, fine.
Yeah.
It's on. It's not coming off.
Yeah.
We took him for a little walk with it on. Then at that point, we loaded him up into the truck. He took the dog straight to the vet from there, texted me a couple hours later, was able to get all of our vaccinations, was able to get a full a full checkup exam, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And he did really great with it, and we're ready for a board and train now.
Heck yeah.
You know, it's like one of those things where we just had to get it done, right? Like, this is life, right? This is the real world. We got to get this dog to the vet, and nobody's going to see him, and we need him to be healthy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we got to get this fucking muzzle on the dog, right? No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
And this is why we do it.
Yeah.
You know? And that was a really important hurdle and a really important thing for the owner to see, and we were able to work past it, and now he feels more confident knowing he could do that in the future.
Yeah.
So that's why we do these things.
Yeah.
And then that's the other thing, too, with the 1 hour a day. I still 100% follow that. You can do 30 minutes a day if you want to. The key is just do it more than just when you take the dog to the vet. Because not that I care that much if the dog has a negative association with the muzzle, but if you're literally just putting the muzzle on and going to the vet every single time, that muzzle is very much going to have that association of this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So... end of this article here. Note, be sure to trim your dog's nails down before doing this step. When pawing at the muzzle, it is possible that they could scratch themselves if their nails are too long. Also, they could chip a nail as well by fighting at it. So, for example, this last dog that we just worked with, when he was fighting at it, they really try to dig in and get it off. And we've seen before with the dew claws, they could scratch the side of their face up a little bit.
Yeah.
Or they can get a nail caught. And if it's too long and brittle, they can kind of crack it.
Yep.
So you got to be careful with that. It's obviously something to be aware of. But again, you get into then weighing risk to reward here of it's like, okay, cool. Well, yes, the dog can potentially like break a nail, right?
Yep.
And it might hurt a little bit. We might need to get some antibiotics so it doesn't get infected. But guess what? Now we're able to have this muzzle on long term, and we're able to be safer and integrate this dog more into our life.
Yep.
Right? And frankly, the dogs that are that bad about fighting it, again, as much of a positive association as you want to create, it's not going to stop that.
Yeah.
They're still going to do it one way or another once you put that muzzle on.
Yeah.
In short, I absolutely love muzzles. I think all dogs should be comfortable wearing them in case of emergencies or if they're ever injured and need handling that may cause them to want to bite. They allow owners, trainers, and anyone else that may be handling the dog to be less anxious and interact with them in a far more calm manner, reducing the risk of the dog sensing insecurity and helping them to have a more positive experience. Hope this helps. There's post 1 of David the Dog Trainer's Greatest Hits. Muzzle tips. 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Still holds true.
Definitely.
What else we got here? All right. Next one.
All right.
3 steps to safe and fun socialization. When was this one written? February 8th, 2018. Same day?
Might have been.
It was the same day. Yeah. And this is the crazy thing, right? So this is what I would do. I made my commitment that I was doing 3 posts a day on my Instagram page. And these are like the posts that I made.
Yeah.
3 times a day. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I made 3 of these.
Yeah, that's why you were going to bed at 3 in the morning.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is these were both from our Columbus facility because actually, I literally remember this one. This was day 1 of Columbus daycare. First day we ever offered Columbus daycare. The other one was from that as well. Wow. Okay. Or sorry, day 3. All right, here we go.
Wait a second. How long were you guys Heights Canine before you opened the Columbus location?
2 years, probably.
Jesus Christ.
Something like that. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. That was
Yeah.
a lot of the hurdles we ran into is we grew too fast.
Yeah.
We bottlenecked ourselves. And basically, if things didn't run through me, it wouldn't work. That was it. That was it.
Crash course. Don't become too big too fast.
Don't do it. Learn from my mistakes. All right. 3 steps to safe and fun dog socialization. Since yesterday, I did a workshop with the local doggy daycare in Columbus, and tomorrow is day 3 of Friday doggy daycare at our Cleveland and Columbus facilities. I figured I would stay on the topic of group socialization. Here are 3 of the most important tips for successful dog-on-dog interaction. I remember that day. It was Pinnacle Pets, I believe. It's a daycare out in Columbus that hired me to go do a workshop with them on socialization. And that was... So here's the thing. I talk a lot about doggy daycares and the reason why I'm not a big fan of them and this and that. I don't want to hate on this place by any means because they were very nice people. But, like, a lot of this was the reason why... And they were trying to do something about it, which I appreciate, right?
Yeah.
But, like, it really clarified to me the reason why we do a lot of these things, right?
Yeah.
The reason why we don't operate daycare in these types of ways, and we don't recommend going to these places. I remember going in there, and for legitimately the first 30 minutes, I just walked up to the daycare group, and it was absolute fucking pandemonia. These dogs were freaking the fuck out. They were trying to climb out of the fucking gate, just like dogs like snipping and redirecting on each other and stuff like that. It was chaos. As soon as I walked in, I was just getting absolutely annihilated with dogs jumping over me and grabbing my shirt and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just a freaking disaster.
Yeah.
It gave me so much anxiety walking in there. I was like, a dog fight is going to break out at any second right now. You know? So half of that, I remember that workshop, we did 2 things in that workshop, right? One was I showed them how to use a pet corrector to start disciplining some of these dogs for things. Because it's like, you guys need to get some control over this. Like, take back the control, right? Yeah. And then thing number 2 is we taught them how to make the whole group wait at a doorway. That was it. And the other thing was we explained to them the importance of not petting the dogs. And I remember the one lady, I don't know if it was the manager or the owner or something like that. She was kind of like it was for her staff, like the workshop that we did, right? But she was kind of off in the corner, like in the daycare group. And the whole time I'm talking about the importance of like not petting dogs and this and that, she's like sitting on the ground with like 3 dogs next to her. I was like, oh God.
Are you listening back there?
Yeah. All right, whatever. It was a good workshop. We had a good time. Like I said, very nice people, but some people that get into like doggy daycares and stuff like that, they just love dogs so much.
Yeah.
And I get it. I understand. But that love gets in the way of providing a good service.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. Step number 1, no human interaction. This is the one that I can't stress more, and it's the root of every answer that I give everybody that's having socialization related issues. It's the same thing I fucking talked about in this last question. It's the same thing I tell all of the staff. It's the same thing I talk about when you have dogs that are having resource guarding issues, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Quit interacting with the dogs.
Leave them.
Just leave them alone. We'll read it, and then I'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right. I've talked about this time and time again and made videos on this topic you could find in my past posts. Human interaction is awful, all the caps right there, for dog socialization. It can create unnecessary arousal and an association of you as a resource, creating a higher likelihood of a dog fight over you. Removing the human interaction allows the dog to do their own thing with each other without the interruption of us or expectation of them getting anything. That's if you know nothing else about socializing dogs, just know that thing. Just that thing. I've been preaching this for so long.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, people just don't get it. They just don't get it. And I'm not even talking just dog owners or doggy daycare operators.
Yeah.
I'm talking dog trainers. I'll see out there all the time, just like sitting on the ground with like 17 dogs around them. Like, hey, what? You know, it's like, just quit petting the... Dog socialization with new dogs is about two dogs developing a relationship with each other and developing a social hierarchy with each other and getting to know each other. And the second we insert ourselves into the mix, we don't allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And it creates problems. And then when you get tons and tons of dogs, you create all this arousal. You create pinch points. You create fights. I just see it like time and time again. That's where all of these dog fights happen, is in situations like that. Thing number 2, advocate for all dogs. This is huge. Almost every single dog fight can be predicted light years before it actually happens. 9 out of 10 times, it is because one dog is getting stressed out by another. When socializing, whether it's 2 dogs or 20 dogs, it is your responsibility to play the referee that lets each know when it's too much before the other dog feels like they have to. Look for clear signs of stress or avoidance from one party and make sure to intervene right away and let the other dog know to tone it back. It's still true. I will say that it's less important than I used to stress it is, right? What I mean by that, right? A lot of the idea of advocating for dogs, this is an old concept that stems back to one of the first guys I remember talking about it in detail was Chad Mackin, right? Chad Mackin, he had this, like, I think he called it like dogsmanship or something like that, like seminar series he used to do. And he used to talk a lot about large group socialization, right? He used to do these like him and, I forgot this other guy's name. He's down in like Texas or Nevada or something. Like he's got like a ranch and stuff. Whatever. So they used to do these large group socializations. They'd be in a big field. They'd have like 50 dogs out in it, and they would just like basically just walk around, let these dogs run and play, right? And they really, really started getting into the idea of advocating for dogs. You know, this dog is stressed out in this corner, so don't let the other dogs mess with them. Or this dog keeps mounting this dog, and the other dog's getting snippy back. Don't let them do that, this, that. So it became common practice in the dog world that that's what you need to do, right? Where I think it went wrong is we went overboard with the advocation side of things for dogs because we were socializing more dogs than it was appropriate to socialize at a time. So you needed to establish that degree of control in order to make sure there wasn't fights, because the risk of something happening with that many dogs is so much more severe.
Yeah.
Right? This is why a lot of the socialization that we do nowadays at Miracle is much smaller groups, 10 dogs or less, this, that. We categorize our dogs in a very clear way so we know which dogs can be mixed with which ones are our socials, our supervised socials, our non-socials, and we only put one questionable dog at a time in with a group, and that group has to be basically bomb-proof dogs that dog is going with. That way we don't have to advocate as much, and we can allow those dogs to truly interact, knowing that if something were to pop off, there's only one dog we really need to worry about at the time.
Yeah.
Right? So the advocation is necessary initially if you're trying to, say you got a household of like 5 dogs and they're getting in fights with each other all the time and stuff, right? It might be necessary initially to gain control and just make sure like everybody realizes just nobody fuck with anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But at some point, these dogs need to learn how to communicate with each other. And these dogs need to learn to be more confident where when they're hiding in that corner, they can communicate some of those boundaries on their own.
Yeah.
And frankly, they need some of that push on them to get them to open up a little bit, right? So that's a hard one. I would say the advocation side of things, it's important, and you should still be aware of those types of things, but I try to step in as absolutely little as possible with that kind of stuff when I can. Step 3, be safe. Good. If you're planning to socialize your dog with dogs that they have never met before, make sure to discuss with the owners what you are looking to get out of your dog's social experience with them. If they are not on board with the above rules, or they have the mentality of, oh well, just let them figure it out, that's likely not the dog and owner you want to socialize your dog with. Find people that respect the fact that socialization should not be a free-for-all, and you guys are running the show. Remember, one bad social experience can really set your dog back in their behavior. So be careful and play it safe. True. Yeah. So we talk a lot about This is the reason why we don't do doggy daycares. You don't know the other dogs there. You don't know the other owners there. And you're not able to have this conversation with them discussing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Right? You can't control if they come in and suddenly bring out a tennis ball and start whipping that bitch around a little bit. Right? You can't control if they have a bag of treats in their pocket that's getting all the dogs to smother around them. That's going to create a fight or something if you have a dog that has resource guarding issues. You have to set it up with people you know and trust where you could set those expectations before you actually do it so it can be successful for everybody.
Yeah.
What do you think, Josh?
It just makes me think of a certain daycare that will not be named here in Cleveland. I think you know who I'm talking about. They always have way too many dogs with no clear presence of authority or anything.
There's a ton of them that are like that.
Yeah.
Like not just one in particular. Like this is the problem with a lot of, especially the larger daycare. I mean, we have some daycares in Cleveland that do like 150 dogs a day.
Yeah.
Like that's bonkers.
Yeah.
And 150 dogs that are not trained and 150 dogs that are probably in a somewhat small area.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It makes me wonder, did that one place ever open? That dog brewery place?
Yes. Well, no. The one you're thinking of did not yet. The one that was going to be in like Middleburg Heights or whatever.
The one that we talked about?
Yes, the one that they had that big posting and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think that one ever did. They did open one in Tremont, though.
Oh, really?
It's a very small one. It's like right on Train Avenue, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And it's like I don't know. I got to do a little more research on it. But
yeah.
It's a much smaller scale version of that. Bless you.
Thank you.
All right, next post here. Why using an e-collar or prong collar with a fearful dog could help you get the breakthrough you're looking for. When was this posted? February 8th, 2018. This was my third one.
Yep, third one for the day.
Hilarious. I need to do this for just a week again just to see how crazy I go.
Jesus Christ, no.
All right. Quote, why would I use an e-collar or prong collar on a fearful dog? End quote. This is something I get asked very, very frequently. Again, I did get asked this very, very frequently.
Probably still do, honestly.
It makes sense. Your dog is scared, so wouldn't using electricity or anything that would be considered an aversive be counterintuitive to what we were trying to accomplish? Wrong! And here's why. E-collars and prong collars get a horrible rap. This is in part because they can look scary, and in part because of the fact that they can be easily misused. Old school dog training with these tools was very harsh and abrasive on dogs, and to this day there are trainers that do not know how to properly use these tools. But the fact is that used properly, they are incredibly gentle and non-aversive tools that can be one of the most effective tools for breaking through the ice with a fearful dog. Let's break this down. Look at situations where you are... Oh, man, I had some spelling errors in here. This isn't good. It's probably because it was the third one of the day.
Yeah, at 2:30 a.m.
Let's break this down. Look at situations where you are very nervous or scared of something. You usually will lose your appetite, shut down, and no matter how much someone tries to coax you with fun things, you steer clear and avoid whatever it is that's causing you anxiety. Dogs are the same way. When encountering things that are scary to them, they don't want to take food and typically will shut down. This shutting down behavior is highly reinforcing to them and becomes stronger with repetition. The dogs have a perceived idea that whatever they are scared of will cause them harm. With appropriate training tools like prong collars and e-collars, we could bridge the gap between the dog not wanting to do something and us working them through it. The way that prong collars and e-collars are intended to be used in modern training systems is as a nonverbal language. We should be able to communicate gently that the leash is not just a restraint, but a means of giving information. On a flat collar or harness, dogs are used to pulling all day long on them and not caring one bit. Since a pinch collar provides a tiny bit of discomfort, it actually allows us to communicate using less pressure than a standard leash. This is far safer on the dog than them pulling constantly on a standard collar. E-collars are used the same way. They become an invisible leash to the dog. Because they have 100 levels to them, we are able to communicate at levels that most people can't even feel, and make sure that those are very subtle sensations have value to the dog and mean to do different things. How does this help with fear? Let's use the example of a dog that is afraid to walk through doorways, climb stairs, or come out of a hiding spot. Once we have clear communication, established with a tool like a prong collar or an e-collar, we could use that communication to block certain choices. If your dog is programmed to not walk through a doorway, we can communicate non-verbally with the leash to move in a specific direction through the threshold. If your dog won't climb stairs, we can remove the option of running away from them using leash pressure and help steer them in the correct direction. If your dog likes to try to run to specific hiding spots, we could use these communications to block those hiding spots as options. Once we have blocked that option, it forces the dog to experience what they normally would be afraid of. Because there's nothing to actually be afraid of, it shows them there is truly nothing to worry about. Repetition of this continues to build confidence until the dog is relaxed enough to take food. Then we could begin adding positive reinforcement to counter-condition the rest of the fear they have. Without having these means of communication in place, you'll spend the rest of your time trying to bribe and coax the dog with food, further showing them there is something to be afraid of because of how big of a deal we are making the situation. For more information on beginning to establish these nonverbal communications, watch my video entitled Introduce the Prong Collar on my YouTube channel.
Boom.
Again, like 100% true. This is something, just that last point in there is something we've talked about numerous times when we get into this counter conditioning conversation.
Yeah.
Right? You have to work the dog through the fearful thing first.
Mm-hmm.
You have to show them that the thing you're scared of, there's nothing to actually be afraid of, and you can work through that very effectively if you just follow our guidance.
Yeah.
It builds leadership capital with the dog where they start to understand we're not going to put them in these scary situations where bad things are going to happen. And then once we've worked through that, we could then develop a more positive association with it.
Yeah.
That's what creates more confident dogs. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I don't contradict myself as much as I thought I might.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Pretty much agreeable on everything.
Agree. What do we got next? Let's see. Using food in dog training.
Is this a different day?
Yes.
Okay.
January 28th.
Oh, going back.
All right. Using food in dog training. I want to take a little bit of a twist with this post here. Everyone knows I'm a huge advocate of using training tools like prong collars and e-collars, and I also stress the importance of making sure dogs understand that they have to work even in circumstances where they may not want to. That being said, I see time and time again people saying things like using food in dog training is nothing but a bribe, and your dog should just be worked for praise and the relationship. Let me explain why a lot of these thoughts are bogus.
Okay.
First, dogs understand yes and no, period. Being able to communicate both of these in the most clear and effective way to your dog is essential and will make or break how quickly your dog learns. Yes, if you have a dog that you have an incredibly strong bond with, you likely will be able to leverage praise as a suitable reward for communicating yes. But most people don't have that, and quite a few dogs just don't care that much about physical praise. In addition to that, most trainers have little to no relationship with the dogs they are training. Some dogs are even averse by new people physically interacting with them. In these situations, it can be greatly beneficial to have something to bridge the gap between them getting used to us and our presence and serve as a suitable reward while we are working through training. Second, the idea that all food is a bribe. Most times that I hear this statement, it is from people that do not understand how to effectively use markers or condition emotional responses in dogs. Yes, food can be used as a bribe, but that's not the way it is intended to be used. No differently than an e-collar be used as a cruel, abusing tool that is not its intended use. Have a clear understanding on utilizing markers and teaching the dog to access reward is arguably just as important as teaching them to avoid corrections and pressure in training. Working for food accesses an entirely different part of the dog's brain that it is important to be able to understand and teach them to learn focus under. In short, I absolutely love working with food. It can help speed up your training process and have certain dogs have a far more positive experience with the process. You just have to learn how to effectively do it. Okay, so I remember when I wrote this post, we were in the Cleveland location, and I remember I kept seeing a certain trainer in the Cleveland area making these posts about, we don't use food in dog training. It's unnecessary. It's blah, blah. You shouldn't use it. This, that. Okay. And there's a heavy e-collar trainer, that, right? Whatever. Again, every single post that I talk about, I love e-collars. They're a phenomenal tool. All these things are great. And frankly, there are a lot of situations where using food can probably be inappropriate if done in the wrong order, right? Like we talked about in the counter conditioning example and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's nothing about using food that is going to hurt your dog training.
Yeah.
Right? If anything, it just helps the dog understand a little more clearly what it is that's expected of them. And when paired appropriately with all of the other things and the aversives and stuff like that, it creates more balance. I want to create a
SpongeBob
GIF. Remember that? Yeah, I want a GIF just balance. On like a rainbow and stuff. So I saw that, and it was just a little frustrating to me because I don't understand why you would be so against using it in certain situations.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a very effective means of communicating. And the relationship and praise, like all of these situations where you're using praise with these dogs that you don't know, a majority of them aren't going to like it. It's not rewarding to them. So you might as well just throw that out the window as well and just use your e-collar, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That is why I wrote that post. So I would say all of that still holds true.
Yeah.
The only point that a lot of people like to argue with using food is the bribe, and that's when it's done incorrectly, right? So a lot of people take food and they'll like hold it in front of the dog and then like ask the dog to do things. And at that point, yes, the dog is only doing it because they see that food in front of them.
Yeah.
Just like our corrections, our rewards should always be used with verbal markers, right? Which means that when I'm rewarding a dog for something, that food is not even going to be visible. Maybe I have it in the other room or something, and I ask them to do something, and they do it, and I tell them yes, right? And then I go and get the food and give it to them, right? That way the dog starts understanding it may just come out of nowhere. So regardless of if I have it on me or not, there's a potential of getting rewarded still, right? That's the only commonly incorrectly used thing that I see people do with the food.
Or do they like reward every time? That's bad too, right? If you just constantly are rewarding. Like,
well, it depends. This also depends what stage of the training you're in.
Yeah.
Right. So like early on in the training process, I'm pretty much going to reward for everything that I ask the dog to do because I'm trying to just really ingrain that this is a good thing to do. This is a good thing to do. This is a good thing to do. Then once the dog shows that they're past the learning stage, they understand this very clearly, right? And there's no problems with it or anything like that. Then I would start kind of fading those rewards out, making sure the dog understands they just have to do it.
Gotcha.
Right? So there's steps to all of this. Like any of these tools, right, you have to strategically implement, right? And all of them have very, very effective spots in the training process.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got here? We're going to skip this one because we read this one on the podcast already before, why positive reinforcement alone will not stop your dog's behavioral issues. That's a really good one, though, so go check it out on my blog. All right, this one was the one that like really blew my blog up. This was June 6th, 2017.
Okay.
This one came out a while ago. I wish I could see the analytics of this one. Because this one really, I mean, there's comments and comments and comments on this one. I wish you could tell me how many blogs or whatever this was. I don't know how to work a blog. All right, whatever. This is going to be the last one here.
All right.
Why on-leash greetings with other dogs can be one of the single biggest mistakes you make with your dog.
This is the one that blew up? Really?
Dude, this one blew the fuck up. This was the first time I ever wrote anything about on-leash greetings.
Yeah.
And then from there, we made like a YouTube video version of it and like multiple other posts on it and this and that, right?
Okay.
On-leash greetings with people and dogs are the number one cause of behavioral issues on the walk. They cause reactivity, conditioned excitement, and put dogs in immensely uncomfortable situations. Let's break this down. First and foremost, the number one reason why we discourage on-leash greetings is due to the unnecessary social pressure that it creates for the dog. In ideal social situations between dogs, or dogs and people, the dog is free to roam. If they get stressed out due to another dog or person, they can get up and walk away, giving them space and reducing the social pressure. Being on a leash is very restricting to most dogs. They are stuck within a 4 to 6 foot radius of you at all times and are very aware of it. This puts them in an innate position to tap into their fight or flight responses. Since they do not have the ability to flee, we see them find alternative ways to deal with the stress. You will see this in two major forms. The first and most common is in leash reactivity. Your dog will quickly begin to realize that barking, growling, or lunging makes other dogs or people go away before they have a chance to approach. The other major sign that we see is your dog aggressing on the dog or person, trying to make them go away. Next, let's take the example of a dog that is not nervous or fearful, but overly playful and social as can be. There are a few major reasons why we still discourage on-leash greetings, even with these dogs. The big thing we want to avoid with a social dog by eliminating on-leash greetings is conditioned excitement. Classical conditioning is a beautiful thing, except when we are accidentally creating responses to things that we don't want our dog responding to. By allowing your dog to say hi to every dog or person that they see on the walk, we are essentially telling them, get excited every time you see a dog. This shows itself in pulling, barking, and other unwanted behaviors, making it difficult for you to keep your dog under control. Keep in mind that these issues can go from 0 to 60 very quickly and turn from playful energy to aggressive and dangerous behavior through continuous rehearsal. The last reason is more of a precaution that we take than anything. We don't know the other dog. You could have the most social dog in the world, but if your social dog says hi to another dog that doesn't like it or isn't quite as social as the owner may say, you could wind up with your dog being attacked. And that in itself will cause a whole other slew of unwanted side effects. You may not be concerned about this for a number of reasons, but the reality is I see dogs every single day who have been attacked by another dog on the walk. It just isn't worth taking the chance.
True.
Truth. Don't do on-leash greetings.
No.
This one just, it stands the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
4.5 years later,
yeah,
it stands the test of time.
Don't do it.
Don't fucking do it. Listen, guys, I got all sorts of stuff like that is from forever ago that you guys could read, again, on my blog. Just search David Turpak and WordPress, and you'll find it. I've reposted some of those blogs on our Miracle Canine training page. And if you go on my personal Instagram page, David the Dog Trainer, if you literally just scroll back like 2 years and like... literally, I posted for almost a year straight, 3 times a day, instructional posts. Mm-hmm. I mean, I blew that motherfucker up. So,
gotcha. You did. I remember those days.
So go back, enjoy some of it, find your favorite ones.
Yeah.
Tell me which one's your favorite ones. We could discuss them on the podcast. It was a fun time. It was an exhausting time, but it was very fun. And I equate doing a lot of those things to a lot of the success that I have right now. You put in the fucking work. We've talked about this before on this podcast, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to make those personal sacrifices of staying up really late to work on the things that you want to work on. And over time, you develop a name.
Yep.
Right? I did not have a big name for myself before I started dog training. Not that I have a huge name for myself now by any means, but I've gained some notoriety through putting in the work and putting myself out there.
Yep.
And you could do that with any industry. Any industry you want to. You just have to commit, and you got to just do it.
Yep. 100%.
And that's it. And that's the moral of today's podcast.
It is.
Put in the fucking work.
Put in the work.
And don't contradict yourself. Make sure when you do put yourself out there,
Don't contradict
yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Josh, anything else? Final notes?
A quick thing, if you want to answer it. So, Devin's work takes her to people's, backyards and stuff.
Yes.
Right? So there's actually a doggy daycare owner that she goes to.
Oh.
I don't know. I shouldn't say it anyway.
Yeah.
But
we won't name drop.
we won't name drop here. But when she goes there, this lady leaves her dogs in the backyard, unsupervised, for 8 to 10 hours a day. And
while Devin's going there and working?
Yeah. While Devin's going there and working. And 2 of them are probably 8 to 10 week old puppies.
Oh, God.
Yeah. She came back and told me that, and I was like, what?
I don't even know what there's to answer on that, aside from like the multi-layered issues at play, right? So first off, leaving your dogs unattended for 8 to 10 hours, especially in a... Like, listen, you could have the greatest fence in the world.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust that at some point one of my dogs wouldn't get loose and then just be gone. Like, I want them in my house. At least if they get loose in my house, they're in my house still, right?
Exactly.
2, anytime you leave your dogs unattended, especially for extended periods of time, that's time for them to start getting into trouble, and you're not there to address it, especially when you're dealing with young puppies.
Yeah.
Then you have the side of those puppies aren't fully vaccinated yet, and even though your backyard might not have other dogs back there's plenty of shit they can get into. Yeah. They could swallow stuff and get obstructions. They could probably sniff some deer shit or this or that, and I would assume develop some sort of medical conditions and stuff for that. They could start getting into fights with each other. I mean, and then you get into the safety aspect of now you're having somebody new come to your house when your dogs are loose back there, and you have a new person invading their property, and especially if they're in the backyard by themselves that entire time, that's them creating territorial associations with that place, which causes more likely to fight. I mean, one of the biggest areas we'll see people get bit is people call, they're like, oh, yeah, I had my landscapers come over the other day, and my dog was loose in the yard while the landscapers were working, and they ran over and bit him. So, well, why the fuck was your dog loose while landscapers came over your house in the first place?
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Like, when we have our landscapers come over, our dogs are in the house.
Yeah.
They're in the house.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's... I just don't get it.
No.
Right? These are the things that I could get really on, like, a soapbox about.
Yeah.
I won't right now. I wanted to end on a positive note, Josh.
Yeah, sorry.
I
just remember.
Do your hardest, put in the work, and you could be anything. Blah blah. But you had to get me a little fired up there at the end.
Sorry.
So listen, just don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
Listen, crates. Put your dog in a crate. Your dog doesn't hate the crate. Your dog won't hate the crate. The crate's good for your dog. It's safer for them. Just use a fucking crate.
Yeah.
End. Oh, Jesus. Anything else to note?
No, that's it.
Is that it?
That's it. I just figured that would maybe we'll touch on that again sometime, but that was I was like, oh, I have to tell him about that. I was just like, I can't believe that.
Actually, you know what? I do have one more thing I want to talk about here.
Oh yeah.
Where is it? Let me see. All right, let me find this real quick.
Okay.
So we got a question a while ago on our Instagram page from Elena. Let me pull up the messages. Okay, Elena OIF. Hang on. Sorry for the delay. Do. Okay. So we had a dog in recently. His name was Grady. Grady was one of the absolute most sound, anxious, reactive dogs I've ever worked with in my life.
Okay.
Ridiculous. And let me also caveat this with, I did not do a majority of this dog's training. I helped the staff kind of problem solve some of the issues that they were having.
Yeah.
Seamus did most of this dog's training and absolutely knocked it out of the fucking park. Right. So just testament to our competency of our trainers we have at Miracle Canine Training.
Perfect.
Dude fucking killed it.
All right.
This is a dog that in the past, if we had this dog come in for a board train, I would have been like, oh my God, I have to do this myself. You know? Our trainers are competent enough to do those things.
Boom.
We got a message. We actually answered this on the podcast a while ago, right? I want to read this initial question from before Grady started his training, and then I want to read the review we got from them the other day, like a month post-training, right? First question. Hi. We have been on a challenging journey with our dog, and I found your company online and signed up Grady for board and train in a few weeks. I listened to your podcasts and videos, and am feeling some hope that your program may help when others couldn't. I did have questions for you. Grady is diagnosed with noise phobia and also severe anxiety. We took him to OSU Vet Behavior, and he was on numerous drugs, all of which seemed to wear off after a few months. At home, Grady presents as anxious, ears back, panting, etc. for almost 90% of the day. He is terrified of anything that beeps, and when he hears a sound or thinks he's heard a sound, will hide in a closet. Do you correct a dog for being anxious if they aren't engaging in a behavior? Are we making the right choice by weaning him off his meds for this program? Is general anxiety something that you train, or just the specific behavior that comes from it? Thanks.
I remember that.
So this is an interesting journey here, right?
Yeah.
Because this is cool to look at from. This is pre-signing up for training, right? This person found us online.
Yep.
She was able to listen to our podcast that we put out every week that was able to clarify to her that we do kind of know what we're talking about with this kind of stuff. She was able to see before and after videos on our website. She was able to get some hope that we could help with this issue that she had sent her dog to numerous other trainers to solve.
Yep.
Right? And that's all because of this content and stuff that we put out. That's the reason why this person came to us. Right? And you could even tell just through all this, like she was at her wit's end, didn't know what to do, right? And you'll see this in the review that we wrote, right? And we were able to answer this question. I was able to hop on the phone with her, talk about some of her concerns and stuff like that before she actually started her training. And then we met Grady, and she wasn't kidding. Like, he legitimately was one of the most... I have some videos of it. We'll figure out a way to share. But absolutely bonkers. Like, this dog was crazy, right?
Yeah.
Let me pull up this review we got from them. So did his training, sent him home. Seamus did the send home lesson, knocked it out of the park. I saw her 2 weeks later. I did a follow-up session with them just to help them with some nuanced details and stuff.
Yeah.
And we received this review a couple days ago. Oh, Jesus Christ. How am I supposed to read this? There's some tiny writing. See this?
Oh, my God.
It's very small.
Zoom it in.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Long post alert. Miracle Canine Training was just that, a miracle for our dog Grady. After years of trying literally every therapy, drug, and training tactic, we finally feel like we have our dog back. Grady went through what we deemed a psychotic break almost 2 years ago, and it has been a long, long journey to help him. He was absolutely terrified of anything that would make a beeping sound, which meant he spent most of his entire day hiding, shaking, and trying to crawl through walls if he heard a single beep. Like, literally... We did this on a phone. We turned on like an Amazon truck thing on YouTube, and he literally was scratching at the brick wall, like trying to like escape. Like it was insane.
Jeez.
And cried through walls if he even heard a single beep. He refused to eat, to go on walks he used to love, and to come downstairs to cuddle with us on the couch. It was incredibly painful and frustrating to watch. Our vet gave up, sent us to a behavioral vet who also gave up, and told us the only solution was to heavily medicate Grady for the rest of his life. Even the medicine that we tried, and we were on our 6th one, would work temporarily and wean off. It was the most depressing and disheartening experience to watch our dogs suffer. Miracle Canine was truly our last resort option. I read every review, watched every podcast and video, and knew that if anyone can help Grady, it was this training group. People are very judgmental of using an e-collar. However, let me tell you, there's absolutely nothing we could do to help Grady. Fresh cooked lamb, every toy in the book, all the positive praise and reinforcement in the world would not snap him out of his panic attacks. If you saw our dog, you would have said that letting him live in this panic state was actually inhumane. If you read about what Miracle Canine Training does with the e-collar, you will learn that it is simply a tool used to facilitate very effective training and an appropriate replacement behavior. My husband and I were amazed at the dog we got back. Grady will probably always be anxious, but he is functional and much more relaxed. We could finally take him on walks, go to the park, and have people over. Also, they completely weaned him off his meds. We are in absolute amazement. We keep saying we wish we could rewind time and start off with this training group. For now, we just feel very lucky to have found them. We could not give Miracle Canine Training a higher rating. It is worth every penny. Thank you, David, Seamus, and the rest of the team. And then there's this picture of Grady. Look at him, looking all cute.
Hey, Grady.
Hey, it's Grady.
Wow.
Feeling emotional.
Oh, gosh.
Feeling emotional, Josh.
Stop it.
And listen,
It is. This is
these
emotional.
are the things that, you get into a rhythm sometimes with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where we train so many fucking dogs. Like we see so many people on a day-to-day basis, and we have such a large organization. I mean, it's crazy. Like we have 15 people working for us right now, right? That's a lot of people, right? For any caliber of the word, right? Like we are growing into a full-on organization, right? And this is something I talked about on the podcast that I was on a couple days ago. My goal is to be able to provide this for as many people as I can, right?
Yeah.
There are so many people out there that are hurting and suffering with their dogs, right? Just due to their behavior, due to their limitations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in this industry, there is just freaking place after place after place that will just take your money and not help you.
Yeah.
You know?
That's all I was thinking about, that behavioral vet or whatever. Like,
That's
here,
it.
just throw a
try
shit
these,
ton of
try
meds.
these, try these, try
Yeah.
these, try these, right? And there's so many people that will then shit on you if you try to like approach an avenue like what we do here, right? And the fact that we are able to help with situations like this where nobody else can shows me not that we are the greatest people in the world, but it shows me that we have a lot of work to do to help to change this overall mindset of how people are looking at solving behavioral issues.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people out there just giving up on dog after dog after dog because they've tried so many different places that haven't been able to help with it.
Yeah.
Right? And that is my goal, is to build this organization so big that we could start to push out some of that bullshit and have some other people start rising to that level to be able to help as well.
Yeah.
And listen, there are some great trainers out there. There's some great other people out there, but I think that most of them are not goal oriented enough on that, on really truly helping the customer.
Yeah.
You know, they asked me in the podcast that I was doing, they're like, what are some of the things you see your competition doing that are hurting them or not allowing them to grow, you know? And the biggest one that I was able to say right off the bat is not accepting ownership and responsibility of situations. Any dog that comes in, if it's struggling with its owner, the first thing I have to do is find some ownership and accountability that could be a me problem and figure out what do I need to do to help get this message across better. And if you always have that on the forefront of everything that you do, you won't find yourself falling into the trap that I see trainer after trainer after trainer falling into of, they didn't do the homework, and that's why. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
They're not doing the things I told them to do. It's like, well, they came to you because they had a problem, and they came to you looking for guidance. Maybe you just gave bad guidance. And guess what? That's okay if you did, as long as you could accept it and give them better guidance moving forward.
Yeah.
You can't get too locked in that kind of stuff. You know?
True.
And that's what we're trying to do over here.
Yeah. You know, I just keep thinking about the whole med thing, you know, because people always say that, you know, the negative corrections or whatever with e-collar is so bad for the dog, but you're literally over-medicating a dog for no reason. That's damaging to their system. That's damaging to their mental state. I think that's way worse than an e-collar could ever do.
100%.
You know, especially when they don't need it. I don't know.
Brings a tear to my eye.
It does.
Happy tears. Happy tears for Grady.
Yeah, happy tears for
We're
Grady.
ending with happy tears for Grady. All right, guys. Josh, wrap it up.
All right. It's been a wonderful podcast. You can find me at Josh DeWay Productions, joshdewayproductions.com. You can find him at Miracle Canine Training, Instagram, website, and Davidthedogtrainer, Instagram.
That's it. I don't need to say anything else. Catch y'all on the flip side next week.
Bye.